If there's a textbook example of a game franchise that went from being iconic to being seen as a symbol of how the youth in the Western world are growing up to be complete failures at an alarming rate, whose greatest accomplishment in life will be pushing carts in the Walmart parking lot, it would be the Sonic the Hedgehog franchise. At one time, Sonic the Hedgehog was an iconic franchise, defining the Sega Genesis and being Sega's corporate mascot, appearing referenced in numerous arcade machines such as Daytona USA, and even in machines made by Sega's short-lived pinball division. After Sonic went 3D, though, the franchise went through a fall it would never recover from and become the longest running joke in gaming. Sonic went from defining the 90s to be seen as a dying franchise with mediocre games, and in some cases truly terrible games, with a fanbase consisting of screeching kids and 35-year-old shut-ins that happened to find one of the first infamous video game fan bases, and well, fan bases of the online era in general. Lately, however, Sega has managed to dress up mediocre games and make them sell by using the same formula books such as Ready Player One, movies such as Scott Pilgrim, and games such as Mighty Number 9 and 10 used. Nostalgia. Sonic Generations suffered from many of the same problems Unleashed did. The controls fell off and a bit laggy on consoles that ran at 30 frames a second, and Generations just didn't feel quite right, especially with the classic levels. But because it featured remakes of old Sonic stages, it got high scores from reviewers and shut-ins. After Sonic Lost World and the non-Sonic team developed Sonic Boom games either got panned or simply fell into obscurity, Sega decided to try making a retro game yet again, but instead of taking the Sonic 4 approach of trying to make a sequel with people who didn't get out of the old game's work, they decided to bring in Taxman, or the former fan game developer responsible for the remakes of Sonic 1, 2, and CD, and they decided to have Taxman and a few others associated with Sonic fan games develop a new Sonic game entirely called Sonic Mania. There were some problems though, and the major one was not only did it feature old levels with new layouts causing the game to feel like a stale fan game, but its level design was pretty terrible with lots of confusing areas and ways to get stuck and die. But hey, it's made by people with Sonic Retro accounts, so they know exactly how to make a game that is guaranteed to make the typical Sonic fan with tons of Sonic Retro tabs on one monitor open and tons of Ink Bunny tabs on the second monitor blow their load and their mom's money on a new Sonic game and spend days praising it as the best Sonic game ever until they forget about it because it's just another rehash. I mean, let's be honest, that's what Mania was. But they knew how to pack it full of references to older Sonic games, something that only someone who has the Sonic Retro Wiki bookmarked would get. But in the end, if it were free and not officially produced, it would be a drop in the ocean of fan games, aspiring to live up to the standards and glory of past Sonic titles. And it's a shame, because with less boardroom interference and a few more months of development, it could have been much, much better. Anyhow, Sonic Forces is the newest Sonic game that just came out, and well, it's been overshadowed quite a bit by Sonic Mania. I mean, who could have possibly seen it coming? It's not like the same exact thing happens with most modern games nowadays, like Halo, Call of Duty, Pokemon, you name it, where people get more excited for the past than playing the newest games in a dying franchise that is well past its prime, where people put a collective sigh every time there's a new game being shown at E3 from this dying franchise. They'll show a game and people will be like, oh, right, it's this franchise. Who the cares? I'm gonna put that guy sleeping Twitch emoticon or whatever. You know, that's how people react every single time they announce a game in a series well past its prime. But when you announce an old retro styled game or a retro remake, people are gonna get excited for it. So that's the thing. Nobody gives a shit about Sonic Forces. Not even the Sonic fans seem to, because everybody was too busy playing Sonic Mania. But let's ask the real question here. Is Sonic Forces any good? Well, let's find out. Now, Sonic Forces, also known as that other Sonic game that nobody cares about, gave me a few warning signs. When I went to rent the game at the family video I usually frequent, they told me they didn't have it on Xbox One, only the PS4 and the Nintendo Switch. a system that nobody who isn't on the spectrum owns. Furthermore, the PC version when Sonic Forces came out was a complete show with DRM up the ass and lots of complaints on how this game crashes on my PC. Ouch. Anyhow, I ended up getting a used PS4 the other day, and then I rented the game to see if it was any good. I also forgot to set my video settings down to 720p so I could record in 60 FPS, but whatever. It's not like I'm going to spend $150 to $200 on a capture card just because I forgot to change a setting. Anyhow. So let's get to the real question though, after I rented this game. Is Sonic Forces any good? Well, I'm going to get this right off the bat. I'm just going to say this right here. So, unlike Sonic Mania, Sonic Forces is unlikely to remain notable outside of the core Sonic demographic, which is squeaky kids and 25 to 30-year-old men who want to live like teens for the rest of their lives. A lifestyle that, despite being glorified by the internet and media, is as sustainable as the hood-rich lifestyle. And that's for a good reason. See, Sonic Forces, for the most part, is essentially Sonic Generations, but with the nostalgia bits that appealed to the mainstream and got Sonic Generations' high review scores and sales removed. So let's start off with the premise of Sonic Forces. It's a typical Sonic storyline nobody gives a rat's about. Eggman did something evil again using a random villain he found, and you have to stop him. Oh, and he got some other random villains too from like past Sonic games, and everybody's being wrecked by Eggman's army of image board posters who hate furries, and you have to stop him yet again because he's trying to destroy the world. Oh, and you have to team up with Sonic Squad, but you don't get to play as older Sonic characters whatsoever. Instead, you only get to play as classic Sonic, and original the character. In fact, that is the plot twist in this game. But the thing is, first of all, who cares about the story? You've played it a million times, and you can skip it. It's a bit darker, but it's not as dark as, say, Shadow the Hedgehog. At least there aren't humans in it, though. You can skip these cutscenes, thankfully, and I would recommend this, because nobody gives a shit about them. Anyhow, here's the twist this time in this Sonic game, because every Sonic game has to have a you can create your own original fan character. It's a bit crippled, however, and there's only so much you can do with it, but you do get to unlock lots and lots of costumes. You're restricted in many aspects, from species to color schemes, and I've seen better fan characters on DeviantArt. Yes, I went there. Chances are everyone using this feature is either going to attempt to make the characters in this game Sonichu, Cold Steel the Hedgehog, or their DeviantArt fan character that they have lots and lots of, like, art of. This is the gimmick this time around. The pandering to DeviantArt with the character creation ability. This is emphasized with the character rental feature that feels a bit like a similar mechanic in Crimson Dragon on the Xbox One, where when you play in this level, you can switch between your own original character and someone else's original character that you're using for the stage. When you unlock new for your character by doing things such as clearing levels, you'll be notified of this, like the game really wants you to know about this gimmick. Everything else about this game is, well, Sonic Generations with everything wrong with that game made worse. The controls are very slippery, sluggish, and imprecise, and this can get frustrating in boss battles when you're fighting the controls of the game and not the boss itself. To make matters worse, the homing attack is one of the worst in recent Sonic games, only working when it wants to, and the air dash has been replaced with double jumping. You have to aim your character just right, or you'll target the wrong enemies, or just die. It doesn't work as well as it did in older Sonic games, because the homing attack only really works when it wants to. It really does. It is so awful. And the poor controls from Generations, though, are nothing compared to the poor level design. See, the level design in Forces is influenced less by Sonic games of the past, even the newer ones, and more by Light Gun games and David Cage games. Actually, no, those games are still less scripted than Sonic Forces by far. So basically, the level design is all the worst aspects of the Hedgehog Engine games, but turned up to 11. The level design is designed around boosting to win, memorizing button presses at specific spots, because if you hit the jump button one too many times due to your muscle memory, well, then you'll die, and, well, quick time events. No, we're not just talking about, say, Unleashed style where you had to push buttons when you were in the air or that kind of shit. We're talking, this game has lots and lots of scripted quick time events. From quick button flashes appearing on screen to full-on scripted scenes where the camera moves to some scene and well you have to hit the button when it says to on screen. Yes, that's right. That is what the level design in this piece of shit game revolves around. And even the boss fights revolve around this. And when you combine this with the extremely clunky controls, it's clear that this game is poorly designed and you'll be yelling at your TV quite a lot playing this game. To make matters worse, the game is extremely short, being around 3 hours. But don't take my word for it, one streamer beat the game in around 2.5 hours and managed to get a Steam refund for it on stream. That's right, he got a Steam refund for this on stream after beating it. This pissed off tons and tons of Sonic fans, along with trashy game journalists who want you to blindly support big game companies the minute their big game publisher check clears. They screeched and they screeched and they screeched online, forgetting that the point is, Sonic Generations is so short you can beat the game and get a Steam refund for it. And in the end, though, who cares? The length of this game means you're not getting a lot of game for $40. The length is also convenient though on the flip side, especially if you're a Sonic fan, because you can beat the game quickly and spend the rest of your time arguing with people online about how Sonic is the best game franchise of all time, how IGN is terrible for not giving Sonic a perfect 10 because the controls are too much for them to grasp, and how all the darn haters of Sonic need to stop hating Sonic because Sonic's the best game ever. About the only saving grace with Sonic Forces is that at least it looks pretty and runs at mostly 60 frames a second on the PlayStation 4. It has similar graphics to Generations, and in some parts it looks better. It's pretty, and that's about it. All in all, Sonic Forces continues to prove why the Sonic the Hedgehog franchise is still the longest running joke in gaming. The fact that people continue to actually buy Sonic games, despite the terrible track record, is the punchline to the joke every single time. But you know what? There are some people you just can't convince, who act like non-player characters in a video game, willing to eat up any pile of trash that comes their way and following their programming. These are the people buying Forces. The people who, they don't care if the next Sonic game is as bad as 06, because they're still going to buy it. No matter what you say or do, they'll still convince themselves it's an amazing game, even if they forget about it in a month or so. Don't believe me? Just look at the Amazon reviews for Sonic Boom Rise of Lyric. There are some people in there saying it's a great underrated game. And that's all that needs to be said, people. Thanks for watching, and subscribe for more gaming videos.